Hi guys, so I want to do a video all about teeth, how to look after your teeth, and especially if you have children. So if you're having a child, you've got a baby, if you've got a child, this information feels really important. I feel like most people need to know this stuff. So I'm going to try not to ramble and try and keep it in some kind of order. I've already done numerous videos and I'm just trying to get it clearer. So first of all, I took Neo to the dentist recently, and he said that his palate was nice and wide, and that is key to not get overcrowding of teeth. And he said that he's basically like a unicorn. There's so many children these days with narrow palates, and the reason, one of the main reasons, there's a few reasons, I did not use a dummy. If you use a dummy with your child, you're narrowing the palate and it changes the whole form of the jaw. The jaw should be nice and wide to allow all the teeth to come through. If you've got like a toddler and they've got all little gaps in between their teeth, that is perfect, because when their big teeth come through, there's a lot of space to allow those teeth to come through. But what can happen is they've had a dummy, it changes, you'll notice when they've had a dummy, the palate changes, the jaw structure changes, and the palate is very malleable. It is changeable. It's like plasticine, especially in children, but even when we get older, we can change our structure. It's much easier when they're younger though. So I didn't use a dummy. And I breastfed him, so he was getting the suction of his tongue to the roof of his mouth, which keeps the palate broad and the airways big at the back, because the palate and the airways are kind of the same thing. Then they need to be nice and broad so they can breathe and the teeth come through. And the tongue is a huge muscle. And it acts like a brace when it should be just drawn to the roof of the mouth. That's the natural position, the default setting of a human being. Tongue to the roof of the mouth, breathe through the nose. What's happening is a lot of children these days and adults, we're all breathing through the mouth. The tongue's dropped down, we're breathing through the mouth. And because we are so malleable, our jaws and our palates and everything becomes longer and narrower. So get your child, it reminded me to do this video yesterday, because I said to Neo, Neo, tongue to the roof of the mouth, and he was like, oh, what? And he was like really receptive, and I was like, oh, he's getting it now. He's at an age where I can really train him to do this stuff. If you're familiar with Mewing, Mewing is the two founders, John Mew and Mike Mew. They're orthodontics. John is the father and Mike is his son, and they brought this whole technique out called mewing, which is basically just the default setting, tongue to the roof of the mouth. Suck it up like a clicking. It should be stuck there. And there's other things that can come into that. I did want to speak about tongue ties. So a lot of children these days are being born with tongue ties. That's the little bit of skin underneath the mouth, underneath the tongue, is too tight. I myself have a tongue tie. It never got dealt with when I was a baby, and it's caused a lot of tension right through my neck, my jaw, everything's always tight through the back of my neck. So first port of call is get it snipped if your child has a tongue tie. The reason we get tongue ties are deficiencies. A lot of the time it's folate. It can be other B vitamins. I do think there's an emotional aspect as well that these deficiencies come about, like how the body doesn't uptake nutrients as well because of a lot of emotional suppression in our families. Like I've come to that realization of 12 years being a nutritionist, that emotions are a huge aspect of our nourishment for our body. So the tongue tie, that needs to be dealt with. Stop the mouth breathing, don't do dummies, and if there starts being crowding in the teeth, never listen to a dentist that says pull the teeth out, because we need the teeth there, we just need to open the palate. So there's lots of tools they use for expanders. But there is a whole protocol that as adults you can do yourself. There's an account called Mewing.world, and that goes into the fact that if you actually fill your tongue to the roof of your mouth, you'll feel like a line right down the center of the roof of the mouth. Now when you rub that line, this is part of their techniques, it's called internal face pulling. You rub that line and then you get both, this is a good test actually, both thumbs up to the roof of your mouth, see if they fit. If they fit, then you should have a nice wide palate. But if they don't fit, it needs widening. So then you just go in and imagine like the palate's like plasticine and you're just trying to mold it open, just keep working it. So it takes commitment. The people that do this course, and I've done the course but I've not been committed, like 10 minutes a day of just working into that palate, trying to open it out, broaden it out. 10 minutes a day, and like a month people see results, like 1 mil expansion. So that is quite beneficial for you if you're an adult, but as a child theirs is easier to keep open. So one of the things that's really useful is this, it's called a munchee. This is a cheaper version of it, and basically they just chew on it. They chew on it and it just helps like the palate become broader, the jaw, and so the teeth can drop down, and they enjoy doing that. Like is a nice little just chewy thing instead of a dummy, which is pushing the palate this bit up, which we don't want. We want to keep everything broad. So I can send you a link to this. munchee is the actual design, like the people that invented it it's called munchee, but this is a cheaper version. So I've written some notes so I don't ramble, like I said. So I've said about the munchee. Right, let me just talk about diet a little bit. So Dr. Weston Price is a dentist that's not alive anymore, but he's done the most research on diet and the face structure and teeth. So he went around different tribes around the world and discovered that the ones that were on really nourishing diets full of fat soluble vitamins had nice wide open palates, nice broad faces, and all their teeth just fit in their face, in their mouth. And when they changed their diet and what they called white man's diet, their structure of their face and jaw just narrowed and all this overcrowding happened. So it's so important to have the right nutrients. The main nutrients he found that we need are fat soluble vitamins, so that's vitamin A, E, D and K. But what he found is that vitamin K, he called it activator X, so that helps the minerals get into the bone and teeth, and it's really quite hard to get in our diets these days. The highest sources are offal, liver, ghee, you know, really decent quality dairy, and egg yolks. They're really high in all the fat soluble vitamins, so they get the minerals in the bone and in the teeth. The highest source of vitamin K actually, that's not really widely spoken about, is actually emu oil. So this brand is like a traditional emu, and that's got 10 times the vitamin K of anything else that you can get. So that's the fat soluble vitamins we need to get the minerals in the teeth. Then children and adults, well mainly children growing up, they need so much more calcium than what we give them. These two are cell salts 1 and 2. Let me move them around. Calcium fluoride and calcium phosphate are basically forms of calcium that build enamel and build the bones. These I get from Homeoforce. These are lactose and sucrose free, and like Neo loves them. He just chews on these, just little tablets. You can just chew on them. So yeah, if you've got a child, get them on these. These can turn around teeth. If your teeth seem just weak or a bit see-through, or your child's teeth are not coming through with the enamel form properly, then get on those too. This is also a great supplement. It's a bone formula, but it's really high in like nano calcium. So right now, because Neo's big teeth are coming through, I've got him on this stuff. A quick backstory. So I was vegetarian for a good 6-7 years, and I was pregnant vegetarian, and I was breastfeeding vegetarian, and I knew about fat soluble vitamins, and so I tried to get my sources through high quality raw dairy, and Neo's baby teeth came through, but the enamel didn't form properly on a couple of them. And I do hair testing with clients and myself, so I did him a hair test. I sent it off to a lab, so I didn't do it here. And he was lacking vitamin A, vitamin K and calcium. So at that point I was like, right, I'm just going to change our diet and introduce liver, and we became like meat eaters after that. I'm not saying that, like, you know, there are some people that can actually thrive and their bones and teeth are still really good. I do think there's aspects of like parathyroid could be going on. My sister reminded me the other day that her enamel didn't form on her teeth properly. So there could be like genetic mutations going on there. So yeah, not saying that everyone absolutely needs those things, but Dr. Weston Price did look at diet as one of the big factors with nice wide palates and strong teeth. So if I just also share some of these books with you. So these are the books that I found the most helpful. So I'll start with this one. This was the book that I bought 7 years ago. It's such a brilliant book. Like, it's got so much information. It goes into the Weston Price, all his discoveries. I'll just give you a quick photo. Where is it? Yes, this is nice wide arches of like the Aboriginal people or like tribes. Nice wide arches and broad faces, and then when the white man's diet came in, just like narrow faces, narrow palate, and it was predominantly diet that did those changes. And when you, like I said, if you become more narrow, your mouth has to drop open for you to breathe, because the nose is also too narrow. Look at the airways, so much broader. But yeah, there's so much information in this book. This is such a great book. It actually, this was one, is maybe some controversial stuff in there, but this is one of the books that I didn't have any scans when I was pregnant because of the information in this book. This dental diet is also good. Stephen Lin, he's on Instagram, posts loads of really good stuff. This is a great book. Actually, this is really interesting. Pottigen's cats, so it's a study, I think it was over 12 years. They fed one group of cats the absolute optimum diet, raw milk, raw meats and stuff, and the other group of cats just scraps and processed food. And over the generations, the one that had the optimum diet, they were perfectly healthy, they had good behaviour, perfect offspring, and they just carried on. And the ones that were fed the scraps, their bone structure changed in their face and their body, and their offspring were becoming ill. The behaviour changed, like there's big behaviour changes as well. It's really quite interesting. It's obviously about cats, but it's kind of a good reflection of what's going on with the human, like with humans as well. So that's quite interesting. This is a great book called Jaws, which goes into, yeah, basically everything I've said about why our palates are becoming narrower. And yeah, if you understand this info, you won't go to the wrong people and have the wrong treatment. None of my family obviously knew this stuff. I wasn't brought up on optimum diet. I had teeth removed young and everything became narrower, and I've got a lot of tension, never had my tongue tie removed, and it's stuff that I'm trying to work on now still. But if you can, like, get this when your child is young and they're all developing, and get them nice and open, use the munchee, make sure they're not mouth breathing, give them optimum diet, maybe those supplements that I've spoken about. I did want to also mention, so I've said about the tongue tie, so mouth taping is a massive kind of craze now. I did it for a couple of years because I naturally just want to open my mouth when I sleep, and when I first did it, I just put a little bit of tape over. It is a bit like claustrophobic, obviously you're getting used to it. But I had really bad pain through the back of my head, like my occipital bone, which I pushed through. And after 2 weeks, I didn't have any pain, but I just didn't feel it was useful for me because my mouth wanted to drop open to release all the tension that I hold. So yeah, mouth taping can be beneficial if you've not got tongue ties and stuff. I also had a year's worth of a therapy, myofunctional therapy, which is a certain therapy that helps you train muscles in your face and mouth that aren't working enough. So it's trying to release all this tension through the back of underneath my tongue, and use my lips more and different things. But what I actually am trying to find is a functional tongue tie release, an adult functional tongue tie release, and there's no one in the UK. If you're in America, you've got this covered, like there's so many good practitioners for this, but in the UK there's nothing like that. So I do want to actually get my tongue tie released, so I can then try and retrain all my muscles and broaden my palate, get my tongue always to the roof of my mouth, because at the minute it's still too narrow. I kind of do mewing, but it's not like, it doesn't feel like default comfortable. What else was I gonna say? I was just gonna mention something about, yeah, I think I've covered everything. I'm sure I've left out some stuff. I know it's a bit of a ramble still, but yeah, hopefully that's quite useful for you. You can just drop me a message if you want the munchee link. I can send you that. Also, my myofunctional therapist, you can get in touch with her. And yeah, hopefully you find that useful with the books and stuff as well. All right, thanks guys.